Iggy.
Iggy Pop, bonsoir.
Hey, bonsoir, Thierry.
Are you still nightclubbing now?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
You seem to be in great shape, no?
All right.
You said I'm a married man.
Yeah.
I pay my taxes. I do my job carefully. It's true.
Yeah.
Is it because of Suki's influence?
No, it was my own idea. You know, there comes a time when, you know, it's okay to grow up.
Yeah.
It ain't bad. It ain't bad.
Is it true that when you met her, she was in a concert in Japan, and you saw her at the first row, and you asked a roadie to go and ask her to come with you?
Yeah, that's true.
Why? Why did you do that?
There's something in her eyes. You know, I like to look at people when I work anyway.
Yeah.
And something living in there.
Yeah.
Some character, you know.
Yeah. You were fed up with different girls every night, and asking $40 for the cab and leaving you diseases.
I think it's kind of silly and not in the best of taste to always be out looking for affairs.
Yeah. So now you are like John Lennon was. You live in New York with a Japanese girl, and you are quite home guy. You are very straight, no?
I'm pretty straight. I'm not like I'm not AA, or I don't have a rule like I never. You know, this is wine.
Yeah.
You know.
You seem to be in great shape. Yeah. You play golf?
I play with my dad,
Yeah.
just as something, you know, we're both men, and he's a lot older than me, and so when we get together, we don't really want to sit and chat, you know, like, oh, hi, nice to see you. So we play golf for something to do together.
Is it true that your dad has always songs ideas when you play golf with him, and he says,
Yes.
I've got an idea, and you say, no, Dad, no, no.
Yeah, he's constantly trying to sell me his song ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you play golf with your son Eric? No.
No, but I see Eric a lot when I go to Hollywood. He's a Hollywood kid.
Yeah.
He sings backup on one of the songs on my new records.
He sings on the Undefeated, on
Yeah.
the new album Brick by Brick.
Yeah, with about 15 other guys.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's like a bunch of guys.
You said about your new album, it is the most articulated thing I did since The Idiot in '77.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I did The Idiot, David Bowie composed all the music, or most of the music for that, and I was working very hard just to concentrate on the lyrics. And this time I put as much work into the lyric and also wrote the music.
Yeah.
It just worked harder, basically.
Yeah.
You know, simple as that, really.
You have two guys from Guns N' Roses too, no? Yeah. And you sing a duet with on Candy
with Kate Pearson
from B-52. Yeah.
Her voice kind of flies like an airplane, like a B-52, I guess.
On this album you play guitar too, no?
Yes, for the very first time. I always wrote on it before, but my style's very raw, and I always hired more professional people. And this one I sort of had fun playing with each different guitarist that guested, and it felt more real, because often the singer in the band is often in a frustrated position, because he hasn't got the instrument, you know, and he has no control over, you know, what's going on. So sometimes it's really nice to pick it up and it comes from you.
At the beginning you were a drummer.
Yeah.
And then when you saw Jim Morrison or Mick Jagger, you decided to be a singer.
Well, I wanted to be a singer, but it was when I saw those guys that I was more pushed. It was like, I can't wait any longer. This is ridiculous, you know.
When you were a kid, you were living in Ypsilanti, near Ann Arbor, near Detroit.
Yeah.
And your parents were living in a trailer camp.
Yes.
And is it true that you were playing drums in the trailer?
This is true, yeah.
But where in the trailer?
Well, there was a big bedroom, a master bedroom for them, big enough for, and then a smaller bedroom for me. And when I got my drums, they gave up their room. Yes, and they moved all their things out of their room and gave me that room.
To allow you to play?
To allow me to play. They're very, very wonderful people. And they slept in a very, very small room. And they did that for 3 years, all through high school. And when I would play, everything would shake and it made a big noise. but they were always really good about it. Really lucky.
At that time, you were rooting for the New York Yankees. That's
Yes.
true?
Yes.
I can't believe it.
I really liked, they were a class team, you know,
Yeah.
they had everything. They had power, they had speed, they had brains, but they had a great personality, that team. They had a...
And you even joined the Boy Scouts in that time, that's true?
I was a Cub Scout, but I got kicked out of the Cub Scout for doing this with the rubber bands, you know, at the meetings.
Sure. Is it true that one day your father and mother were listening Sinatra on the radio, and your father said, show business people are the aristocracy of this country?
You know, the entertainers are the new aristocrats of this country.
Yeah.
And I listened.
And then you decided to be a star.
Well, I was torn between, I wanted to be a politician, very much, and I was really interested in that, but as I began playing, it was a lot more fun to play than to sit around talking, and also Kennedy was shot. And when he was shot, I think a lot of people in America became more cynical. And sort of like, hey, wait a minute, something's off, you know? So it kind of put me off.
And your first group was called the Iguanas, and that's why your real name is not Iggy Pop, James Osterberg.
Yeah, right.
And then you decided to call yourself Iggy.
I had it was a nickname. Other people called me that, and then finally I just gave up and said, okay. And now I like it, you know.
And how did you meet the Ashton brothers?
Ron was in a local band, and he's a good bass player, really good. And his brother, I was a drummer, I was kind of one of the better drummers in town, and his brother would just hang around and watch me drum, and finally one day said, you know, I'd like to learn to drum. Would you teach me?
And you started the Stooges.
Yeah.
You were influenced by the Kinks, the Who, the Stones, the Doors, but much more destroyed, no?
And also by all the music that was coming out of kind of the Middle Eastern crescent. I noticed that some of the groups I like were using the American blues. And I thought, well, that source is dried up. Let's go farther from home.
And you were influenced by Coltrane too, no?
Extremely much. Extremely by Coltrane. I always, and also Shep and Albert Ayler. And really those three were like the Trinity. And I always felt that I was trying to use my body the way that they would use their saxophone. Lyrically, in my singing delivery, it was more, you know, Jagger, Dylan, Lou Reed, you know, trying to emulate those guys who were my heroes.
So you were the first punks. In '67, you are called the godfather of punk. That's true?
I don't know.
But 10 years later, when the Sex Pistols sang No Fun, you had no group anymore at that time.
No.
Were you sad to be alone at that time and to have no group?
I never sat around and thought, gee, I wish we were together or anything like that. I'm too much of a realist. There was a reason that it ended, and when it ended, it ended. It's lonesome sometimes to be a solo. It's lonesome. On the other hand, being in a group has a lot of tension to it too. Groups break up, people die. A lot of times somebody else gets the money. You know, things happen.
So you were the first one to wear knit-on blue jeans. You were the first one to abuse
I was the first one to rip my blue jeans. But I didn't cut them first like other people do.
You jumped on your knees.
I was on my knees so much that they started ripping, and I thought, wow, that looks kind of cool, you know?
You were the first one to abuse your body with glass bottles too, no?
I only did that twice. And it was not a happy experience. I just did it because I was very, very disappointed in that particular time, and it just happened. I was the first one to stage dive, too. I'm kind of proud of that because a lot of people have fun doing that, you know. Whee, you know.
So your first album, the first Stooges album, was produced by John CALE, and he was like a babysitter for you because he let you do what you wanted to do, no?
If we had tried to do what we were doing with nobody to justify it to the company, we would have had a mess. But they for some reason they trusted him. I don't know why.
Is it true that he was during the sessions he was dressed like Dracula? Yeah, that's it.
He dressed like, well, not totally Dracula, but he wore in my memory he wore a big long black cape with a big thing like this, and he looked pretty cool. And Nico would come to the sessions once in a while.
Yeah, you were Nico's lover, no, at that time? She told you sex, I heard.
Whatever, and she would knit. You know, she would knit while we played this really loud music. Yeah.
Your second album was Fun House, and then with the group, you went very down into mushrooms, cocaine, heroin, and it was bad trip for you. What is the worst thing you done at that time to find some heroin?
Once I had scored some. I was in a rent-a-car that I hadn't paid for, and I couldn't take it where I scored it, and I was so anxious to take it. I pulled into a gas station and I went into the men's room, and there was an ashtray. You have to have something to cook it up in. The ashtray was very dirty, and so a lot of dirt got in it, and I had a very bad reaction. It's very painful to talk about that kind of thing. Yeah, it's finished.
Then you met Tony DeFries because Bowie was already interested in you, and he brought you to the CBS boss office. And is it true that the first time you came, you sang a Sinatra song on hands and knees?
On his desk, Got up on his desk on my hands and knees and sang Shadow Your Smile. A little bit of My Funny Valentine. And then it went wrong because you didn't want to become a star. When you saw David Bowie at that time, you didn't want to become like him, no? That's a pretty fair statement. I respected him, but I had something of my own that I really wanted badly to do. And I kind of knew in advance that they had other plans for me.
It was difficult to issue raw power because you went to Los Angeles and you went in an hospital and you were just allowed to get out to sing on the record, and then you came back in the hospital.
No, that was on a later record, so we had a very bad time. The only thing we managed to record was an album called Kill City, and that was the one where I did the vocals on the weekend because I was in a hospital. Which was basically, I did it for my own good, because I realized...
You were not able to manage yourself anymore, that's it, no? To take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's right, I didn't know how anymore. I'd lost the ability.
So,
like a lot of people, I think.
In 1976, you went to Berlin with David Bowie to finish The Idiot, that you had begun in Hérouville in France.
Right,
And you had good time there.
We had
sausages, rock and roll.
It was a big, it's a big city physically. It's huge. And it was built for a lot more people than lived there. There weren't that many people there then. It was real empty.
Of course.
And the people that were there, they were very fringe, very on the edge of life, and a lot of draft dodgers, people running away from the army. A lot of students and leftover strange artists.
Nightclubbing was in Berlin?
Nightclub, no, I wrote that before I got there. It was about, basically, I'd been out on tour with David, and I was just going out every night with him, going out every night, disco, every night, club. And so that was the idea of it. It wasn't supposed to be on that record. The record was almost done, and him and me and a friend of his were up just goofing around in the studio, and he put on one of these rubber masks of a very old man. An old man, and running around, and he sat to the piano and started to play kind of old man music, like Hoagie Carmichael. And he's playing this music, and I flipped, and I said, that's great, because I've always had that, I have the ability to recognize music in other people. That's, that's kind of what I'm good at. And I just went, whoa, that's great, please, I can make a lyric, this can be great. And he goes, no, it ain't that good, but I talked him into it. And so we did it. And then he thought, well, the drum machine sounds too cheap, because it was like a $98 drum machine. But I really liked the cut.
We too. You said about Berlin that the wall protected the town from all assholes in the world.
That's how I felt. Especially because we had been, he and I had been living in Los Angeles. He was kind of more on the top of it, and I was on the bottom of it. But in Berlin, it was the first town I'd been where people didn't just bend over and kiss rock and roll's ass for the wrong reason.
What did David Bowie brought to you?
turned me on to, I never really knew about ballet.
Yeah, Nijinsky?
He turned me on to Nijinsky and Diaghilev and the whole story of the ballet Russe, the whole idea of artists from different discipline working together. And the whole idea, nobody ever said to me, hey, you know, you could be a painter.
Yeah.
Because I would make these little drawings. And you should paint. So he showed me how you prep a canvas, because he'd been to art school, you know, and showed me.
Every time he was there, you know, every time you had problems.
And he was, you know, he's a very hard-working person, and that rubbed off, because I used to be pretty lazy, too self-indulgent.
Yeah.
And I thought, God, this guy works hard, you know, this could be a good lesson.
And what did
Took a long time to learn.
What did you bring to David Bowie?
I can't say. That would be for him to say. I don't know.
But without Iggy, no Ziggy.
Obviously. I guess so, yeah.
Mm.
Seems to have part of my name in there.
And one day, after that, Elton John wanted to produce you, and he offered you $500,000, a house on the hill.
No,
and you said, when I looked at him, I saw wild, outrageous glances and a fact behind them. That's true?
He was interested in us at one point. I don't know how interested, but he really liked James Williamson. You know, he had a thing about James, and it never went anywhere.
You know you're a legend.
I'd just like to make a good song that somebody likes.
You think you could have been bigger without dope and drugs?
I have no way to tell, but I mean, I'm bigger now than I was last year.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm doing all right.